In this Star Wars Outlaws video, I will be talking about what the new Avatar game could tell us about Outlaws. Both of these games have been developed by the same studio, and there are some really positive things that I found, which in turn makes me more excited for Outlaws, and it should make you more excited too. Before we do get into all of those reasons though, make sure you do subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any future Star Wars Outlaws news videos. So in case you aren't aware, Massive Entertainment, who are developing Star Wars Outlaws, just released a brand new open world game titled Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Firstly, there is some key context I want to share with you about how these two games came to be and how they are connected. Set within James Cameron's Avatar universe, this game tells a canon story set between the two films that have released. Outside of the story, it actually tells us more than you would think about Star Wars Outlaws, potentially, and I'm really excited to share with you some cool stuff. One of the reasons we are getting Star Wars Outlaws is because of the relationship Disney have built up with Ubisoft and Massive over the Avatar game. Ubisoft and Massive gained Disney's trust enough and had a solid pitch to get the green light to build this open-world Star Wars game. You might be wondering, how can one studio develop two massive open-world games and release them within about a year of each other? Well, it was announced back in 2017 that Massive, who had just come off the back of making The Division 1, would be creating an Avatar game. This was a different team within Massive to the Division team, as they released The Division 2 in 2019. Despite both of the Division games being online multiplayer open world games, and reviewing just okay, they've had quite a successful, long live service. The Division 2 is still receiving plenty of support and content, well over 4 years after its release. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora was announced in 2021 with a release date set for about 12 months ago. Unfortunately, it was delayed for about a year, but it has just released, and I have to say, it's in a much better shape than most people expected. More on that later on in the video. Frontiers of Pandora was actually announced after Lucasfilm had agreed with Massive to make Star Wars Outlaws. A brand new team was set up to build Star Wars Outlaws just before the pandemic started. In a previous video, I went over a comment made by one of the Star Wars team members in an interview. They said that the Avatar team was a little bit larger than the Star Wars team, but the Star Wars team was getting a lot of help from the various Ubisoft studios from around the world. We did get an inkling of this later last year when job listings popped up at the various global Ubisoft studios for the Star Wars project. The reason behind Massive wanting to do two single-player games are because they've spent a lot of time making The Division, which was strictly multiplayer. They wanted to do something different, and that's what they are doing. Many people are pretty apprehensive about Outlaws due to it being a Ubisoft title. Whilst it is a Ubisoft title, it's more of a Massive Entertainment title. They are owned by Ubisoft, but they aren't one of Ubisoft's Far Cry or Assassin's Creed studios. Some gamers do consider Massive as the crown jewel of Ubisoft right now, similar to how Respawn are at the top of EA for many. Now I have explained the background and connection between the two games, let's go through what I think Avatar can tell us about Outlaws. In case you don't know, Massive developed their very own engine for The Division. This has since been iterated upon and used in The Division 2, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, and is also being used to run Star Wars Outlaws. The engine is called Snowdrop, and similar to Frostbite from DICE, in that it looks absolutely stunning. They both allow the visuals of the games to be some of the best looking in the industry, most recently with Avatar. It is one of, if not, could be considered the best looking game of the year. It is a work of art on so many levels. We've already seen almost 10 minutes of gameplay from Star Wars Outlaws, and it has incredible visual fidelity. It truly looks like it is Star Wars, and this is much like the other recent Star Wars games we've had from EA. Given that Massive are experts at their own engine, they can use this knowledge when building Star Wars Outlaws, and I'm sure they've used it already. We've seen Snowdrop look absolutely fantastic with city environments such as New York in The Division, and then to alien worlds in Avatar. Star Wars Outlaws is going to feature a mix of both. So what exactly am I positive about when it comes to its graphics for Star Wars Outlaws? Well, the PC port of Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is fantastic. This year has seen several bad PC versions of games. It's probably been the best year in terms of how many great games have been released, but the worst year for PC versions. And that list also includes one of the best ever Star Wars games. Jedi Survivor, it's just not been a good optimised PC version. Even on consoles it struggled. From limited amount of settings, bad menus, poor controls, horrendous performance, the list has just gone on and on and on this year. Avatar is an outlier though. Some of the features of its PC version are the bare minimum, but so many games this year have released without them. This is what the standard should be, but unfortunately standards have slipped dramatically in the last few years. Let's go through some of its features then that are missing from things like Jedi Survivor. It has a benchmark with a wealth of graphs and detailed information. It's shipped with DLSS 3 as well as FSR 3, something that Jedi Survivor did not. It only launched with FSR 2. It took 6 months to get DLSS 3. You will find these and many more options in a well put together menu inside of Avatar. Most of these options do come with an explanation as to what the setting does, and some even get a visual comparison so you can see what the setting changes without having to apply the settings and go into the game and look for yourself. Why this is not a part of every PC release in 2023 is ridiculous. It should be the very minimum included. Even though games from a few years ago have this sort of thing, I still want to thank Massive for actually caring about the PC version and putting things like this in. It really helps less educated PC players make a distinction as to what each setting does, because it can be pretty daunting, especially for new players who haven't really had much chance to experience PC gaming. It really shows Massive care about the PC side of things, and I get the feeling Outlaws will get similar treatment. Star Wars Outlaws needs all of what Avatar has, and if it does, it will be the best PC version of a Star Wars game ever. In terms of actual settings in the graphics menu, Avatar features some great options, and it really utilises ray tracing for its global illumination and things like that. It looks absolutely incredible. When you have the hardware to run it, the game is sublime in so many different ways. It also looks stunning in the different time of day, not just in the middle of the day, but also at night time. That's thanks to the incredible world building that Avatar has. Pandora just looks phenomenal, both at daytime and night. Performance is also good compared to the various other releases we've had this year. It's optimised, it works well. Yes, it's demanding because of the glorious graphics, but it's actually optimised, so with your PC you are able to run it at 60 frames per second or higher when you dial in the settings. You don't have to go and use mods or things like that. To top it off, there is actually a secret settings preset that Massive slipped into Avatar. They did discuss it on a blog post, and it effectively makes the graphics even better. This is to future-proof the game, so in the years to come, better hardware can run it at even better quality. It's really demanding right now, but it's not meant to be used by most people, or almost effectively anyone, right? It's there for when we do get a next generation of graphics cards, it can be used to further this game even more. I would love Outlaws to receive something like this. The PC version of the game and its features were a part of the game's marketing. They had a dedicated PC version video detailing its features along with an exceptionally in-depth blog post outlining all of its features with some in-depth explanation. Massive have really showed they were committed to making a great PC version. I mean, this is what we should expect from a studio who develop a super powerful engine and are releasing a AAA game with incredible graphics on the current generation of hardware. Another thing I wanted to bring up are the accessibility settings. So I wouldn't say this is anywhere as good as Jedi Survivor, unfortunately, but there are some real nice inclusions there, and I would like to see more work done in this area for Star Wars Outlaws. Games like The Last of Us 2, Jedi Survivor, Forza Motorsport and more have really upped the game in that department. I know some people will be saying, but most people play on console. I don't care about the PC version, I play on console. And well, having a good PC version also more likely means you're going to be getting a better console version. Tests by other people, such as Digital Foundry, have shown Avatar scales really well on console, and performance isn't a locked 60 FPS, but it's up there, and it's definitely better than, say, Jedi Survivor. The graphics of games aren't everything, of course. Good thing that Snowdrop is not just good at graphics. Another key feature is that it allows developers to iterate quickly, going from design to playable fast. There's also some great animation systems, and to be perfectly honest, from what I've played of The Division and Avatar, the controls are nice and tight. It has also powered a variety of games, not just Massive's own titles. You'd be surprised to learn that the Mario and Rabbids games, a South Park game, and more utilise this engine. It just goes to show that when people compare game engines, it's not just about how powerful they are way more versatile than you think. A lot of it comes down to the artists that use it and how they use it. Something else I want to mention is the photo mode. Even though it's not been confirmed for Star Wars Outlaws yet, Avatar has a real good photo mode. I wouldn't say it's up there as one of the best, but it's better than most. The implementation in Avatar is, I would say, the standard these days, but there are some nice features. It has extra stuff that aren't in Jedi Survivor, for example, like the ability to change the time of day and poses for your Na'vi character. This really changes up what you can do with photo mode, and all games should have these set of features. To me, I would be very surprised if Outlaws does not get a photo mode, and one that's basically the same as Avatar, if not better. The Division 2 also has a photo mode, so Massive aren't completely new to this. Yes, it hasn't been confirmed for Outlaws yet, but Massive have shown that they can do a good one even if it's made by different teams. It should be a priority, and it should be a priority for all games these days. It massively, no pun intended, gets your game out there on social media. It's another way of free promotion, because if you have a good photo mode, even if your game isn't necessarily a masterpiece, you really can get some incredible shots out there, and Outlaws not having it would be a massive, no pun intended, missed opportunity. I now want to talk about the gameplay of Avatar and how it makes me feel, which could give you an indication as to how they will approach Star Wars Outlaws. Frontiers of Pandora has just kind of come out with apprehension from gamers unwilling to purchase it, and not much marketing, to be honest. A lot of people have assumed it's just going to be a Far Cry formula game with an Avatar skin. That formula has gotten stale to a lot of people. The game has been reviewed in the 7 to 8 out of 10s, which doesn't make it a bad game. It's not a masterpiece by all means, but it's not a bad game. Some people seem to think a 7 out of 10 game is one not worth buying, but at a discount, if you can find it, you may really enjoy that 7 out of 10 game more than what critics give a 10 out of 10 game. I haven't personally completed it at this moment in time, but if you are a fan of Avatar, then it's a really dream come true game. It gave me the same feeling that I had playing Star Wars Battlefront from DICE for the first time. It visually, audibly, and thematically captures the universe of Avatar and the world of Pandora. I akin this to how EA's Star Wars games have done this with Star Wars Battlefront, Battlefront 2, Jedi Survivor, and Jedi Fallen Order. Massive have nailed it from an Avatar point of view. I am an Avatar fan, so the little details and the way it captures the films is definitely something that is not going to be seen by everyone, because if you're not a huge Avatar fan, then maybe this game isn't going to be for you. But at least if you have any interest in the films, then I would definitely recommend this game. From what I've played, it's not just another Far Cry, but with blue aliens. There's far more to it. To be honest, I find it closer to Crysis 3. That's another game I loved, and some of it does come down to the fact that you have a bow and arrow, but you can approach the game in many different ways. It's up to you. They even have a setting that you can choose from the beginning of the game or during it. If you want a guide to tell you whereabouts, where you should probably go for the story stuff, or if you just want to be left to your own devices, go around, explore, and stumble on a path that will lead you to main story quests. You can completely ignore side quests and stuff like that and just enjoy yourself playing the main story. Star Wars Outlaws is going to be a big open world Star Wars game that allows you to do things in the way you want in your own time. There's also going to be linear story beats, but how you get there will be down to you because of the different factions. You're going to be able to pick and choose which faction you want to work with or fight against. It seems like these two games will reward exploring, and this is something that Jedi Survivor really did well. It had such a rewarding experience in terms of side content that many people are still loving this game many, many months after release. The stuff that you do outside of its main story, which is already a fantastic story, delivers meaningful rewards. It rewards you for going out of your way and doing things. Some of the side stories that are quite small are being loved by Star Wars fans for their storytelling, but also what you get in return from it. That isn't just narrative. Now on to something that isn't a deal breaker based on how it's implemented, but it's probably just something to be aware of. Some fans have suggested ahead of Star Wars Outlaws that it could have microtransactions based on Ubisoft's track record. They have done microtransactions within single-player games before, but they ultimately are just things to save time because not everyone has the time to grind an open-world game, even though they love it. There is also cosmetics included as well, not just time-save mechanics. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora does include an in-game store featuring microtransactions. Yeah, unfortunately. At the time of recording this video, this is what the store looks like. As far as I know, all of the cosmetics found in the store can be unlocked through gameplay and money is not required to get them, except for some that are part of, like, the special editions that you have to pay more for. I can't find full confirmation on the other stuff, plus there could always be DLC later down in the line in terms of skins, so it might be outdated by the time you've watched this video. Whilst microtransactions in a single-player game is not good, especially one that costs $70, these are optional, and they don't affect gameplay in any meaningful way. It's not pay to win. Even though MTX have not been confirmed for Star Wars Outlaws just yet, I feel like Ubisoft may want to take advantage of it being their first Star Wars game and having a bigger audience than this Avatar game. If there is microtransactions within Star Wars Outlaws, it needs to be done similar to how we've seen in Avatar. All the items must be made available to be unlocked through gameplay without spending any money whatsoever. At the end of the day, paying to progress and get better in a single-player game doesn't harm anyone else, so it's not like a multiplayer game. If someone wants to pay money to get better at a game in their own world by themselves, without affecting someone else's game, then that's up to them how they spend their money. If microtransactions are announced for Star Wars Outlaws, it is going to be a negative headline that's going to spark some bad PR, and it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle trying to convince people if the messaging isn't clear. I know some people will be saying, well, you're not being really harsh enough on microtransactions within single player, and I'm not defending them. I'm simply stating that they're not harming anyone else because Star Wars Outlaws is going to be a strictly single player game, and Avatar is for the most part. There's actually an online 2-player co-op component which won't be present within Star Wars Outlaws, and it is co-op. It's not like you're fighting against someone. Even though these games are open-world, canon story games, they are different in many regards. One is a third-person game, the other is first, for the most part. One is Star Wars, one is Avatar, and I've just drawn some comparisons based on the technology and the mechanics and how this studio makes their games, and it may give us an indication as to what we could potentially expect from Outlaws. I have only had a limited time playing Avatar, so unfortunately I can't say much more than this. Outlaws is shaping up to be a game Star Wars fans will probably love before this time next year and experience to its fullest. I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about Outlaws in 2024 ahead of its release. If you learned something new from this video, please do drop a like to help support the channel. It's been a long one, I know, and if there was anything you want to discuss, comment down below in the comments and I will check them out. Subscribe so you don't miss any future Star Wars Outlaws videos, and if you did miss any of my previous videos, click on the playlist on the screen right now, and I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye.